Hello, everyone. My name's Kim Miller. I'm the Executive Director and the founder of FemArt organization. We are a nonprofit 501c3, and our mission is to support and promote women artists. We are so excited about an upcoming show called Where the Wild Women Go, and it will be our first virtual exhibit, and we are very anxious to launch it on June 7th. And we are interviewing many incredible artists who are in this show, and we are so happy and pleased to introduce you today to Deborah Reid, who is also a fantastic artist and a lawyer. So that brings us to our first question for Deborah Reid, and that is, Deborah, can you talk to us about what inspires you to do art?
What inspires me to do art? I have been painting since I was in elementary school. I was one of those kids that took art lessons on Saturdays. I started college as an art major. But what inspires art has become not so much something that I look for inspiration for. It's something that I use to process what's going on with me, what's going on around me. I don't wait to be struck by inspiration. I just get to work and I hope that it arrives. Oftentimes, and this is kind of an odd answer, but as you said, I am an artist and an attorney, and I have been working on a book on copyright law as opposed to the arts. So where my inspiration comes from now is legal intellectual property concepts. So the next piece that I'm going to do is inspired by the concept of joint authorship. So that's a little bit off. I also went through a period where I was, and still am, intrigued by maps. And I did a full show on maps, focusing more on the physical geographic attributes of coastlines or street grids as a design, more than a way to get somewhere. So there's one behind me now. That's a picture of Hoboken, New Jersey, where I spent many happy years.
Beautiful. I love that. So did you move to Jacksonville from there, or when did you come to Jacksonville?
I came to Jacksonville in 2004. I had lived in Hoboken. I lived in another town in New Jersey in between Hoboken and moving to Jacksonville. And when I moved to Jacksonville, I was fortunate enough to be able to pick up my art again. I had started college as an art major. When I started in 1972 was the year that Title IX was passed, which not only opened up athletics for women on a collegiate level, but also opened up professional schools. At the time that I graduated from high school, only 2 to 3% of women were being admitted to medical and law school. By the time I started law school, my class was fully 25% women only 4 years later. And now I believe that that percentage is above 50%.
Excellent. And actually, I'm hoping to see that same kind of an increase from the small marginalized women artists to having that grow the same as what the legal field has grown for women. It would be great to have just a more, I think probably the best way to express it is probably artists express the culture more fairly, because we represent at least 50% of our cultural identity. So it's great for that. And also I think with law and with all the other different career choices that women have today, I believe that we can all benefit from more women lawyers such as you, and definitely more women artists like you. You're fantastic. And FemArt's been very privileged to have you as a guest speaker at one of our early talks. and we really value you as an artist. So I was going to ask you about the impact of your artwork here in Jacksonville, since you've been here since 2004, but I think I would like to replace that question and address the more broad aspect of your work worldwide, because this upcoming show is going to be globally viewed. And so how do you believe that your artwork will, do you believe it will influence or inspire, or do you think it will speak to women all over the world as well as people all over the world, everyone, but particularly women, because the arts are not particularly professional or valued all over the world. And so in the United States, we're making every effort to increase that presence of women artists. Do you think your artwork will speak to that when it is seen all over the world?
The piece that I did is called Emergence. And it was not something that I set out with knowing what I was going to do. I often like to paint on top of other paintings that I've done, particularly if they're a big canvas. And this one was a big canvas with lots of great texture on it that had a blue heron in flight, which was fine, but I had been pretty well done with that kind of subject matter for a long time. I didn't want to just paint scenery. I wanted to say something, although I can't always say I can't always articulate what the particular message would be. But for this particular piece, I think it has a lot of feminine themes. It is got 13 moons in it, different phases of the moon, and a lunar moth, and a pansy. And for me, it was a lot about just being intuitive, quiet, due to the situation. And also, you know, moths come and go pretty quickly in terms of a lifespan, and just seeing we do too. And I think the pandemic really kind of focused that, but it also, in terms of the symbolism and relating back to things, unfortunately, pandemics have been part of the human story since there has been a human story. So it was reflective about that, but it's also kind of, it's emerging, but I don't know into what. And so I hope the piece that I did, I find the political situation in the United States now very troubling, to say the least. I'm deeply dismayed by the racism and the systemic violence that's been built into our society. And I completed this painting prior to George Floyd's death. But that's a situation that's been going on for a long time. So I think we're on the cusp of something, and I'm very hopeful that it's the cusp of some healing and some transformation.
Thank you so much for mentioning that, Deborah. We will be seen worldwide with our art pieces from 35 women artists, but along with that, it's important to note that we will also be seen by different eyes because of the pandemic, because we are more aware of how connected we are worldwide, more than how separate we are, because we all have shared this pandemic in a very technologically global way. And I believe that our art voices will also be technologically received the same way. So your work is going to have an influence on people all over the world. But, and I do believe that the whole world is watching, and they are very aware of just not that we share the pandemic, but racism and oppression is throughout the world. That is not something that is just here in the United States. And I think due to current situations and current horrifying actions done by people that need to be trusted, we are entering a whole new realm of something that's been around forever, but we are seeing it differently because we are technologically able to see it all over the world. So I think what you're touching on is really important. And your artwork, I'm so excited about it being in this show, Where the Wild Women Go. You are a wild woman that I think the world should be aware of and should know. As a lawyer also, you are fighting for social justice and helping women understand copyright. I mean, helping everyone, but particularly women who are just now getting into the art career fields. That's really an important thing to know about the legal situations that present themselves. So
I'm glad to be able to educate people in that regard, but I'd like to point out that there are many people who are doing really important work in terms of social activism. And I don't count myself in that class, but I hope to be as supportive of them as possible.
excellent. Well, I think even if it's interesting because you may not classify yourself with the lawyers or with the legal people that are doing it, but you're an artist. And if you really look at history in the realm of, it's been such a paternalistic viewpoint that your voice is now presenting a fresh viewpoint and also from this legal field. So you kind of are in that social justice thing that we are looking at through the art lens. And the reason I say that is, in particularly our first show, you had a piece with the Statue of Liberty. And it was such an empowering art piece. And we actually had it in the main lobby as you were going up the stairs. It was the solo piece that was going up the stairs that I thought represented justice, social justice, in a way that had not been seen before in art that I have had in our shows.
Well, thanks. And I appreciate that, but there's a couple of artists I'd like to call out who I think are really doing phenomenal work, who are here in Jacksonville and who are pushing the social agenda for social reform justice forward. Excuse me, I stumbled all over that. But Elena Olander is an incredibly talented artist who is doing some beautiful work, who has addressed the impact of racism on Asian Americans, and Eric Kendrick is doing amazing work. So there are lots of amazing artists and women artists of color who are really doing some fabulous work here in Jacksonville. And I'm just glad to know them and to be able to appreciate their work.
Yes, and with FemArt's organization, we are recognizing some of those people that you just mentioned, and Elena, we're really proud of her. We've seen her work and she's just growing so well. So we are just so excited to have you in this show. I cannot tell you how happy I am that you are going to be present in our first virtual art exhibit. And so I would like to close by asking you a really important question, and that is, what do you drink to inspire you to get ready to be creative?
That's pretty easy. I drink a lot of tea, and my current favorite is Trader Joe's Irish breakfast tea.
Excellent, excellent. We will pretend that that Trader Joe's Irish breakfast is in this cup. And I just want to say thank you so much for interviewing with us today. And thank you, Deborah Reid, for being a very vocal and visual artist that we are so proud to see in the upcoming show, Where the Wild Women Go. Cheers.
Thank you.